Joining us now, former 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang. And Andrew, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is calling for an end to these enhanced unemployment benefits, in part because he believes it does disincentivize people to get back to work. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Anna, it's an oversimplification to say the least. The fact is we have almost 39 million Americans who filed for unemployment, and 42% of those jobs are not going to come back. These unemployment benefits are a vital lifeline to many, many Americans who have a very unclear, uncertain future. But the reality is we need to disconnect this financial support from going back to work. If you were to ask these people, hey, you're getting this money and you could keep it if you go back to work, many of them would work as soon as the coast was clear. But right now, these benefits are helping people make choices that are better for them, which includes, in some cases, not going back to work in a bowling alley or another place where they're going to interact with many, many customers in a way that makes them feel unsafe.
You just said that 42% of the jobs lost are never coming back. That is stunning. Which ones specifically and why?
You can look at a range of industries, Anna, but the example I like to use is that Macy's has furloughed almost all of its 130,000 employees. How many of those workers are going to be brought back in the next number of weeks? Many of them are not going to come back because those stores are closed for good. And if you look up, Hertz just declared bankruptcy today, Victoria's Secret, you can just go through a whole list of retail, hospitality, travel, entertainment. A lot of those businesses are not going to return to anywhere near the levels of employment they were at before. And so we have to start thinking really in new ways as to how we can create millions of jobs in the days ahead, because that's what we're going to need. We need a new Marshall Plan style initiative to try and rebuild our labor market.
When I hosted your first CNN town hall about a year ago, it feels like 10, your campaign, I do too, but your campaign was becoming known for your proposal of a universal basic income, a plan to give every American adult $1,000 a month. I mean, you're still trying to do a version of that right now, and I know you just got $5 million from Twitter's Jack Dorsey to hand out money to people who are hurting financially from this pandemic. How is this going to work?
Well, we have, unfortunately, a waiting list of 40,000 Americans who've already requested micro grants at our website, movehumanityforward.com. And Jack's incredibly generous gift of $5 million will enable us to send $250 to about 20,000 of those people. And I talked to 10 people who got micro grants just yesterday, Anna. This cash is putting groceries on the table. It's giving them the ability to pay rent next month. Americans are in a really, really dire situation across the country right now. We are staring at a new depression if our government does not lead us out of it.
Minorities and women are being disproportionately affected by this crisis. New numbers show the unemployment rate among women has climbed to 15%. Black and Hispanic women hit especially hard. What do you think can be done about that?
We need to rewrite the rules of our economy from the ground up, because this is the equivalent of a natural disaster. And we all know who gets hurt the worst in a natural disaster. It's people with lower levels of resources, which unfortunately overlaps with people of color and women in America. It's one reason why I believe a universal basic income or emergency cash relief measure is so vital, because it's going to put money in the hands of those who need it most. Right now, too many of those businesses and families are falling through the cracks, where 90% of minority-owned businesses were not able to get money through the Paycheck Protection Program because they didn't have a private banker they could call.
So what's the answer? I mean, should they just keep trying?
Well, our systems right now are not designed to do what we're asking them to do, Anna. It's one reason why with Humanity Forward, we're just making microgrants directly to people through our website after we verify some information. A lot of the families we're talking about did not file tax returns. The IRS does not have their bank account on file. Our government should be taking much more extraordinary measures to try and get money into Americans' hands in new ways that don't go through state unemployment offices or the IRS.
Andrew, you obviously know so much depends on the leadership at the top. And right now there's a presidential election happening. Campaigning is happening even in the midst of this pandemic. So I have to ask you about former Vice President Joe Biden and some comments that have caused controversy. He was on the Breakfast Club this week. He said the following about black voters who are undecided about who they will vote for this November. Listen.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man.
The vice president is now apologizing, saying he shouldn't have been so cavalier. And now we're learning that the Trump campaign is planning to launch a $1 million attack ad centered around Joe Biden's comments there. What's your reaction? Can you still hear me, Andrew? Oh, I think we might have lost the audio connection there, unfortunately. Andrew Yang, our thanks for that conversation, and hopefully we can revisit that last question another time. Former 2020 Democratic presidential candidate Andrew Yang is back with us now. It was like the worst possible time to lose that connection we have here. So thank you for sticking around with us. Before we lost you, I asked you for your reaction to the vice president's comments this week about black voters weighing their choice between himself and President Trump. Let's just play the clip one more time.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man.
So, Andrew, the vice president is now apologizing, saying he shouldn't have been so cavalier. And we are now learning the Trump campaign is planning to launch a $1 million attack ad centered around those comments. What's your reaction?
Well, I was with Joe in South Carolina, and he's the nominee because of his longstanding relationship with the African-American community. He was Obama's VP for 8 years. And that relationship is very, very strong. I think the Trump administration can try and make something out of this particular comment, but Joe apologized. Everyone's ready to move on. I think it's money terribly spent on their part, honestly. They should be focusing on something with more, really anything, because that's going to be a loser for them.
But when you hear him say that, that doesn't give you a little bit of the, why did he go there?
No, I think we know that Joe was attempting to be cavalier, as he said, and, we apologized for it immediately afterwards. I think everyone's going to forget about this in a day or less.
A quick last question for you. We know Biden is weighing his options for a running mate right now. You were in this race. Who do you think you should pick?
I'm a huge fan of the people that have been reported as in consideration for the VP slot. He can't go wrong with any of the candidates that I've spent time with. That's obviously Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren. I haven't spent as much time with some of the other women in consideration, but he's got some phenomenal people to choose from, and he can't go wrong with any of the people I've spent time with.
All right, Andrew Yang, as always, good to have you with us. Thank you very much. Be well.
Thank you, Anna. Happy Memorial Day weekend, summer 2020.
Hoping for a very healthy Memorial Day weekend to you and your loved ones. Thanks. Now,